Elias had not always believed in resistance. Years before, he had been a pilot stationed on Titan, far from Earth's political squabbles. When the Seraph first appeared, vast ships gliding silently into orbit, their intentions masked in riddles, he had believed diplomacy might work. Humanity had reached across stars with messages of peace. The Seraph reply had been silence, followed by annihilation. It was not simply conquest. It was something colder. Cities erased, not occupied. Cultures catalogued, then stripped away. And now Elias, who had watched comrades and family alike fall to the Dominion's advance, stood as the embodiment of defiance that Earth itself could no longer give. That memory fueled his reply to the Queen, even as the hall bristled with alien guards. "You ask why we resist." His voice carried across the crystalline chamber. "Because life without choice isn't life. Because even in chains, we are more than you'll ever make us." Zithara tilted her head. She had expected pleas. She had expected bargaining. Not this. More. "You are fragile things, short-lived and easily broken. Your kind withers without air, without food, without light. We endure across millennia. What can you possibly claim to be more than us?" Elias almost smiled. His lips were cracked, his throat raw, but the words came steady. "Because we die. And still we choose." For the first time in many cycles, the Queen did not have an immediate answer. The Queen's doubt. Zithara dismissed the guards. The hall emptied until only she and her prisoner remained. It was not mercy, merely curiosity. Something in the human's words had struck like a blade against stone, leaving a fissure she could not ignore. She descended from her throne, each step rippling the floor beneath her with liquid light. Elias resisted the urge to recoil as she stopped inches away. She towered over him, her form half flesh, half energy, as though a nebula had clothed itself in humanoid symmetry. "You believe your mortality grants strength," she said. "That is paradox. Mortality is weakness." "Maybe to you," Elias replied. "But it's what makes us human. Every choice matters because it might be the last. We love, we fight, we hope, because we don't get forever." The Queen's gaze flickered, a storm of color within her alien eyes. For the briefest instant, Elias thought he saw uncertainty. No one spoke to her this way. Not generals of the Seraph, not the conquered peoples of other systems. And certainly not a human prisoner, bruised and broken yet standing unbowed. "Your defiance will doom your species," she warned. "Obedience could preserve fragments of your kind. Defiance ensures extinction." Elias's reply was not what she anticipated. "Then extinction on our terms is better than eternity on yours." The words hung in the crystalline air like a blade unsheathed. The middle, shifting shadows. The following cycles blurred into a strange ritual. The Queen summoned Elias repeatedly, each time demanding answers, challenging his perspective, dissecting his stubbornness like a scholar studying an enigma. Yet the more they spoke, the less their exchanges resembled interrogation, and the more they resembled dialogue. She asked about Earth. He told her of oceans and forests, of music and laughter, of losses that shaped memory into meaning. She countered with tales of the Seraph, how their empire stretched across nebulae, how they had shed weakness by erasing individuality, becoming one will under the crown. "To survive is to submit," she said. "To live is to resist," he countered. Each clash of philosophy left her unsettled. For the first time in her reign, Queen Zithara found herself questioning, not her power, but the very foundations of her rule. The Seraph had conquered countless species. Yet none had ever spoken of freedom with such intensity. None had looked her in the eye, even in chains, and claimed dignity greater than survival. Her counsel began to whisper unease. Why keep the human alive? Why indulge him? But she silenced them with a glance. She was queen. She would hear the human until she decided otherwise. What she did not admit, even to herself, was that his words had begun to echo within her silences. Test. On the eve of the Dominion's next campaign, Zithara summoned Elias to her private chamber. No guards, no restraints. He stood before her freely for the first time, though he knew escape was still impossible. She regarded him with a strange intensity. Her crown of light dimmed to a faint glow. "Human," she said softly. "One final question. Answer carefully. If I gave you the power to save your people, at the cost of their freedom, would you take it?" Elias froze. For weeks he had resisted torture, hunger, the weight of despair. But this was different. This was temptation. She leaned closer, her voice low, dangerous. "I could end the slaughter. Your species would endure. But as vassals, you could spare them pain with a single word." The silence between them stretched like the gulf between stars. Then Elias spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried with the force of conviction. "No." The queen's eyes widened. "You would refuse salvation. If it costs our soul, it isn't salvation." Zithara had expected anger. She had expected pleading. She had expected at last surrender. But she had not expected this. The human captive's answer cut deeper than defiance. It revealed a strength she could not measure. And in that moment, something within her shifted. The ending, a fractured throne. The council erupted when they learned the queen had not executed Elias. Accusations of weakness spread like wildfire across the Dominion. Armies obeyed her still, but whispers of dissent threatened the unity she had forged across centuries. Yet Zithara found she could not silence the echo of his words. "Extinction on our terms is better than eternity on yours." When the next campaign was launched, she hesitated at the brink of annihilating another species. For the first time in Seraph history, a queen delayed conquest. And in the shadows of her crystalline palace, Elias remained her captive, not broken, not silenced, but a voice she could no longer dismiss. Perhaps she could crush him with a gesture. Perhaps she could erase humanity with a command. But she no longer trusted the certainty she once ruled by. The human had answered in a way she had never expected. And it left the Queen of 1,000 Worlds with a question she could no longer escape. What if he was right?